The date is March 29th, 1987, and the Pontiac Silverdome in Michigan is charged with anticipation, packed to the rafters with over 93,000 fans. Wrestlemania III is underway, and the crowd's excitement reaches a fever pitch as the strains of familiar entrance music fill the arena. Emerging from the shadows, flanked by the rock legend Alice Cooper, Jake the Snake Roberts makes his entrance. The towering 6'6" star glides down the aisle, his cold, calculating eyes fixed on the squared circle. By his side is his ever-present companion, a massive python named Damien. The crowd is a mix of fear and adulation, hanging on his every move. His opponent tonight is none other than the Honky Tonk Man, and despite ultimately falling short against the villainous Elvis impersonator, Roberts successfully orchestrates a symphony of chaos that electrifies the crowd, including shattering his opponent's signature guitar in a cathartic crescendo, then unleashing his serpentine accomplice upon Jimmy Hart, transforming the manager's usual bombastic bravado into a frantic, wide-eyed scramble for safety. This moment, this spectacle, encapsulates everything Jake the Snake Roberts represented in professional wrestling. He was the master of mind games, the king of psychological warfare, a man whose very presence could send shivers down the spine of both his opponents and the audience. In this instant, at the zenith of his career, Jake Roberts was more than just a wrestler. He was an icon, a living, breathing embodiment of the dark and captivating allure that made the World Wrestling Federation a cultural phenomenon. But beneath the veneer of success, beneath the carefully crafted persona of the Snake, lurked a man haunted by demons. Jake Roberts' journey to this moment was paved with tragedy, abuse, and a relentless struggle against his own inner turmoil. His story is one of triumph and despair, of soaring highs and crushing lows, a cautionary tale of how the bright lights of fame can both illuminate and cast long, dark shadows. Aurelian Smith Jr. was born on May 30th, 1955 in Gainesville, Texas, and what follows is a haunting tableau of trauma and criminal depravity, with his father cast as the architect of unthinkable horrors. In a chilling revelation from The Resurrection of Jake Roberts, we learned that Jake's very existence stems from an act of pedophilic rape, his father's assault on a mere 12-year-old child, chosen in a moment of monstrous opportunism when Smith's adult partner, Jake's grandmother, lay unconscious. This unconscionable act not only brought Jake into a world of cyclical abuse, but also forced his mother into the harrowing role of child parent, giving birth while barely entering her teens. A stark reminder of the generational trauma that would shape Roberts' tumultuous life and career. The labyrinth of abuse in Roberts' childhood extended beyond his father's heinous acts, ensnaring him in a web of trauma spun by his stepmother's sexual and physical violations, a parallel horror mirrored in his father's abuse of Roberts' sisters, creating a familial landscape where innocence was systematically shattered and trust became an unattainable luxury. This pervasive cycle of abuse seeded the demons that would haunt his adult life and career, while simultaneously forging the complex, enigmatic persona that would captivate wrestling audiences worldwide. Jake's father, Aurelian Grizzly Smith, was a professional wrestler, and the world of professional wrestling in the 1950s and 60s was a far cry from the glitz and glamour of today's sports entertainment. It was a brutal, often unforgiving business where kayfabe, the portrayal of staged events as genuine, was sacred, and the line between the ring and real life was often blurred beyond recognition. Growing up in this environment, Jake was exposed to the darker side of the business from an early age, moving from territory to territory as his father pursued wrestling opportunities. Despite, or perhaps because of, this turbulent upbringing, Jake found himself drawn to the wrestling ring. It was a world he understood, a world where pain could be channeled into performance, where the roar of the crowd could drown out the demons that plagued him. By his late teens, Jake was already stepping into the squared circle, following in his father's footsteps, but determined to carve out his own path. Jake's early career in the 1970s saw him cutting his teeth in various regional promotions across the southern United States. He initially wrestled under his real name before transitioning to the moniker Jake Roberts, slowly building a reputation as a talented in-ring performer with a unique charisma. It was during this period that Jake began to develop the psychology and ring awareness that would later become his trademark. One of the pivotal moments in Jake's early career came in 1983 when he joined Georgia Championship Wrestling, becoming part of Paul Ellering's Legion of Doom stable. It was here that he began to truly come into his own, refining his in-ring style. As Jake's star began to rise, it wasn't long before the biggest wrestling promotion in the world came calling, and in 1986, Jake the Snake Roberts signed with the World Wrestling Federation, and it was here that he would achieve his greatest fame. Roberts made his highly anticipated debut on March 8, 1986, defeating Jose Luis Rivera at the historic Boston Garden. His first major feud emerged against the charismatic Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. The rivalry was ignited on a nationally televised episode of Saturday Night's Main Event, when Roberts executed his devastating DDT maneuver on Steamboat, slamming the unsuspecting wrestler's head directly onto the exposed concrete floor, a move that left Steamboat unconscious with a legitimate concussion. This shocking angle not only solidified Roberts' reputation as a remorseless, calculating villain, but also showcased his mastery of psychological warfare after he released Damien to slither all over a comatose Steamboat, and the way he executed his DDT finisher, sudden, impactful, and often seemingly out of nowhere, perfectly encapsulated his snake-like persona. But it wasn't just Jake's in-ring work that set him apart. His promos were on another level entirely. In an era of loud, bombastic interviews, Jake spoke softly, forcing viewers to lean in and hang on his every word. His promos were mind-bending masterpieces, filled with double meanings and thinly veiled threats. Jake didn't just cut promos, he wove dark, captivating narratives that blurred the line between fiction and reality. Acknowledging his extraordinary gift for captivating audiences through his command of the microphone, the WWF granted the rising star his own talk segment dubbed The Snake Pit, which debuted in late 1986. Modeled after the successful Piper's Pit format, the Snake Pit provided Roberts a platform to conduct interviews with wrestlers and managers, allowing him to skillfully advance storylines and ignite anticipation for his various feuds. Despite the Federation's efforts to position him as an antagonistic villain, Roberts began to enjoy a surge in fan popularity, as his captivating persona and technical prowess in the ring increasingly resonated with the audience. This was exemplified during his long-simmering rivalry with the egotistical Elvis impersonator Honky Tonk Man, which came to a head when the villainous performer launched a surprise attack on Roberts during a Snake Pit interview segment, striking the unsuspecting grappler with his trademark guitar. The force of the blow, exacerbated by the guitars of the era not being designed to break easily, resulted in a legitimate neck injury for Roberts, ultimately catalyzing his transformation into a fan-favorite babyface as he sought retribution against his devious adversary. Another one of Jake's most memorable feuds during this period was with ravishing Rick Rude. The program began in 1988, when Rude, known for selecting a woman from the crowd to kiss after his matches, unwittingly chose Jake's wife, Cheryl, who spurned Rude's advances. This led to a series of intense matches and segments, culminating in a match at Wrestlemania IV. The next significant feud was with Andre the Giant. This program, which ran through 1989, was notable for its use of the fear of snakes as a central plot point. The sight of the massive Andre cowering in fear from Jake's python was an unforgettable image that perfectly illustrated Jake's ability to get inside his opponent's heads. Perhaps Jake's most famous feud of this era was with the $1 Million Man. This storyline centered around Jake's refusal to be bought. This led to a series of matches and angles that showcased Jake's ability to connect with the crowd as a fan favorite. One of the most memorable moments of this feud occurred on April 27, 1991. The $1 Million Man, along with his manservant, Virgil, attacked Jake and locked Damien in a burlap sack. They proceeded to beat the sack with a steel chair, supposedly injuring the snake. This angle was so convincing that the WWF received numerous calls from concerned animal rights groups. Throughout his WWF run, Jake was involved in numerous other memorable feuds and moments. He had a brief but intense program with Ultimate Warrior in 1991, which included a famous segment where Jake locked Warrior in a room filled with snakes. He also had a notable feud with Macho Man Randy Savage, which included one of the most controversial moments in WWF history when Jake had a King Cobra bite Savage's arm on an episode of Superstars. Jake's first run within the Federation came to an end in 1992, following a feud with The Undertaker. This program, which saw Jake play the heel to Undertaker's face, was notable for its dark, supernatural overtones. It culminated in a match at Wrestlemania VIII on April 5, 1992, which would be Jake's last WWF match for several years. Despite his success in the ring, Jake's personal life was in turmoil during this period. His struggles with alcohol and drug addiction were beginning to take their toll, both personally and professionally. The demons that had haunted him since childhood were threatening to overwhelm him, even as he reached the pinnacle of his career. After leaving the WWF, Jake spent time in various promotions, including World Championship Wrestling and the independent circuit. However, his addiction issues were becoming increasingly apparent, affecting his in-ring performance and reliability. There were moments of brilliance, including a brief return to the WWF in 1996, and a stint in Extreme Championship Wrestling, but they were overshadowed by his personal struggles. The late 1990s and early 2000s were a dark period for Jake Roberts. His addiction had spiraled out of control, leading to numerous health issues and legal troubles. He became a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the toll that the wrestling lifestyle could take on a person. Many fans who had grown up watching Jake in his prime were shocked by his appearance in interviews and independent shows during this time. But Jake Roberts' story doesn't end there. In a twist worthy of one of his own promos, Jake's path to redemption came through an unlikely source: Diamond Dallas Page, a fellow wrestler turned yoga instructor. Page took Jake into his accountability crib, helping him get sober and regain his health through DDP yoga and a support system of friends and fellow wrestlers. Jake's journey to sobriety and better health was documented in the 2015 film The Resurrection of Jake the Snake. The documentary showed a side of Jake that many fans had never seen: vulnerable, honest, and determined to overcome his addiction. It was a powerful testament to Jake's resilience and spirit. In recent years, Jake has experienced a career renaissance. He made a surprising and emotional return to WWE television in 2014, confronting Dean Ambrose on an episode of Old School Raw. In 2020, he debuted in All Elite Wrestling as the manager of Lance Archer, introducing a new generation of fans to his unique brand of psychological assaults. Jake the Snake Roberts' legacy in professional wrestling is undeniable. He revolutionized the art of the promo, showing that words spoken softly could be more impactful than any shouted catchphrase. His in-ring psychology was second to none, able to tell compelling stories without relying on high-flying moves or brute strength. And his DDT finisher remains one of the most popular and imitated maneuvers in wrestling. But perhaps Jake's most important contribution to wrestling goes beyond what he did in the ring or on the microphone. His openness about his struggles with addiction and his journey to recovery have helped destigmatize these issues within the wrestling community. He has become an advocate for addiction recovery, using his platform to help others who are struggling. Jake's influence can be seen in countless wrestlers who followed him. The Undertaker, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and CM Punk are just a few of the superstars who have cited Jake as a major influence on their careers. His ability to captivate an audience with just his words and presence set a new standard for what it meant to be a complete performer in professional wrestling. The snake may have shed its skin many times over the years, but the man behind the reptile remains one of the most fascinating and enduring figures in professional wrestling history. A master of the mic, a psychology savant, and a testament to the power of redemption. His story, like his promos, will continue to captivate and inspire for generations to come. Thank you for watching.